Hey, how you guys doing tonight? Good, good. So, you guys like roads?
Yeah.
Like, where cars go on and stuff?
Yeah, that's how I got here.
Yeah, that's how you got here. Well, if you like roads, you gotta visit Toronto because they have the longest road out there. It's called the Yonge Street. And I think if it's the longest or the biggest of anything, then it's worth checking out. Yeah. So, I was out there in Toronto and, I'm kind of a skeptic myself. So I went to the Yonge Street to check it out, to see what all the fuss was about. And it turns out, it's pretty long. So, I was walking on the street, doo-doo-doo, and my gosh, I saw a building that was caught on fire, and, I made a call to 911, and soon enough, they sent the firemen, and, I was just like bewildered by all this inferno and these firefighters that went into the building, with that fear in their eyes and all this bravery, and they started rescuing people out one by one, and one of the first people that were rescued out was this pregnant lady, right? And I still remember, like, the fear from her eyes was gone, and what was once written, with the warriors was, now replaced with thankfulness for the firemen. And I still remember what she said, she was caressing her babies, and she said, "Hey, aren't you glad we pushed an abortion 2 weeks later?" I wrote that joke, before the Roe v. Wade was overturned. But hey, what a retardation in the women's rights movement that was, huh? Like, Jesus, like, I know it doesn't affect us in Canada, but like, all the shit talking we did about the Americans when they voted Trump in, and all the shit talking we did when they voted Biden in, despite all that and all the friendly competition, with the women's soccer team and the hockey league and all that shit. But as a good Canadian, you still gotta have some empathy for these guys, and I have a soft spot in my heart for those poor ladies that are affected by this in the red states, because now they have to get into their cars and get into minor car accident and hope for the best. and that's a real tragedy because they just be perpetuating the stereotype that they're bad drivers. No, I know stereotypes and prejudice. That's all bad because I went to school here and I took the curriculum in Alberta. I did the whole diploma and everything. And they teach you like the curriculum, so that it's standardized across the province and make you take this big test. Who took that exam when it was like 50%? Woo! Who took that when it was like 30%?
Yeah.
Fuck you guys. Anyhow, they taught me stuff like math so that I could count fruits and like social studies and English so that I could be up here speaking English to you guys. So I'm really thankful for the CBE, that they taught me, that made me like me. But one of the things they teach you, social studies, it's like really important, and it's like a mandatory subject that they teach you at school because one of the things that we try to do as a good Canadian here is I think we have to teach our kids the trauma of the residential schools and the Pacific Railway so that going forward we can be better citizens, so that we can improve the society, not repeat the mistakes, not like another Hitler is born or something like that. So it must have been a real tragedy, when the Ukrainian high school kids were getting bombarded by the Russians, I can imagine, but I assume they were thinking, hey, don't these Russian guys have schools there? Like, don't they teach these core values of humanitarianism? Okay, I'll scrap that joke. Anyhow, you guys like planes? Yeah, I took a plane from Toronto to here, it took about 4 hours. But it turns out when I landed, it was only 2 hours. Kind of funny. But I took Air Canada, and man, like next time, I'm never taking that again. I had a bag full of funny jokes that were tested and tried from Toronto, and when I got to the Calgary airport, they had lost it. Like, what a bunch of fucking losers! They even survived. Yeah, but despite what you think, I like airplane rides. It's like an expensive roller coaster ride. When you take off, your stomach gets all funny feeling, and then when you land, it does the same thing again. But I like the funny feeling in my stomach. And when the airplane's up in the air, and I'm just sitting, I'm not really flying. The pilot just staying there for me, so I guess you could say I just sat here. Didn't really do much of a flying. No, I like sitting down as much as you guys, but I gotta tell you, man, that 4 hours was kind of brutal. There was a girl sitting next to me who was kind of hyperventilating, and she was really nervous and kept asking the lady who was sitting in the window seat to change seats with her because she was getting claustrophobic. Now, you know, I think if the 9/11 hadn't happened, she'd have been fine. No fear. Anyways, no, I grew up in Okotoks. Not a lot of diversity down there. Mostly white people. And you know, my English, despite being the stand-up, wasn't that good when I was growing up. And you know, when I meet a stranger, they say, "Hey, it must have been so tough growing up as an immigrant." You know, you never learned the language, but no, I think that was actually the only thing I was good at when I was a kid, growing up. Yeah, well, you know, I still remember, like, I made my very first friend who's here tonight, and her last name was Baker, and I remember going up to her in the playground, and I said, "Hey, you're not a fucking baker. You're just a student like me, you don't even have a job." And she goes, "Well, you know, the last name comes from a long lineage of bakers, and, you know, my great-grandfather was a baker in the town, and so was my grandfather before him," and, you know, I was like, "Oh, shit. So your dad's like a baker?" And she told me, "No, he's an engineer." Well, you know, my English got better and I understood. And as my English got better, naturally I made more friends within Praga. And, you know, the second weekend, I made another friend whose last name was Smith. And, you know, by then my English had gotten pretty good. I was able to make the connection that his last name, Smith, comes from the occupation of blacksmiths. So I was, you know, his ancestors must have been pretty good at working with metals, being a blacksmith after all. And, you know, on the third weekend, I met another friend, you know, whose last name was Mason. So then by then, my English had gotten pretty good, and I was able to make the connection that, oh, you know, this guy's ancestors must have been, you know, pretty good at the masonry job and working with stonework and all that shit. You know, by the fourth weekend, I had met another friend, his last name was Hitler. So, you know, by then, my English had gotten pretty good, so I was able to make the connections. Oh, his last name's Hitler, so his ancestors must have been pretty good at making cars. No, but you know, English is a funny language. You know, they got all these funny sayings that sometimes I don't really like find truth in. Like they say things get easy as time goes on. No, I don't agree with that all the times because living out in Ontario, you know, it's been pretty tough for me to make new friends. You know, I was pretty good at making friends in the playground, but it's pretty rough out there, despite my English. But you know, I never give up. My coaches taught me, you know, when things get tough, you always have to go back to your basics. You know, like it's like taking a step back so that you can go 2 steps forward. So I adhered to my coaches and my teachers' advice and went to the local playground down there. Yeah, my mom doesn't like that joke very much. She thinks it gives people the wrong impression of me. But I don't really think she knows what she's talking about because, you know, guys who actually do the fucking and the raping of the child are usually pretty discreet about their little hobbies. Anyhow, that's it from me. Thanks, guys.